and she said yes to come. And ironically, through God's providence, we were traveling on May 1991 at the same time that she was in Brazil. And we knew she was in Brazil, and we said, well, we're just praying for whatever is happening there. It's just exciting, because we were all excited about our move, never thinking that it would transition into something bigger than we could have ever imagined, even though we're a little seed that started. And so we saw the poverty in Arizona with the Indians, with the things that people did not have, and separated 50 miles away from Tucson. And so we had that in our hearts. So when we arrived at Luminosa and found that this new moment was starting, it captured us. I mean, we wanted to do something. And so with Joan Dugan, who came 2 months later, and Tom and I, we decided that we had to be a part of this, also because we felt it was something that God wanted. And we were there because of Chiara. So it seemed like it was trifold, and it was just meant to be. And so we said, we're teachers, and we've been in education, so let's do it. And I just have a little background. Is in Hyde Park at that time. And everything, IBM was closing, people were leaving. Economically, it was a disaster. And people looked at us, not Focolare people, but said, you're going to start a business in this climate? We said, yes, we are. And it thrived because of the providence of God. So, anyway.
So I have to say that as you were speaking and talking about the principles of the economy of communion, I had to reflect just a little bit, and I shared with John last night, that our discussion very early in time was, should we call this economy of sharing, or should we call it the economy of communion? And we had a whole dialogue about just what we should call this new movement that was resonating. And I would say that when Chiara shared this, to us, revolutionary idea of a new economy, a new approach to, it really did resonate in the hearts of a lot of people. And it was our impression that really Chiara was talking to the people of Brazil of an answer to what she saw in Brazil. But when the world heard this, it was a spark that spread like a wildfire. And it was one that really settled in our hearts to the point that, I'd like to share, not so much the mechanics of how we shared our profit, that's there. And we adhered strictly to the principles of the economy of communion. But I'd like to share with you this spark that began in our hearts as a result of first moving to Luminosa, and second, the idea that we could participate in something that was dear to our hearts in the first place, and that is to share our life with other people. I'd like to share, as a result of this, the finish line, our business in Hyde Park, right next to Luminosa, was born. So Joan Dugan, Joann and I purchased this home, and in the lower level we created 6 small classrooms, to tutor children who are on a one-on-one. And so our adventure began. And we really know that God was really in our hearts and in our soul, in the sense that, most businesses, when they start out, it's generally about 5 years before a business can become profitable. And we were able to share our first check of a little over $1,000 with the this first part of feeding the hungry. And I have to say that I was as proud of that check as I was in the last one that we left before we left Luminosa. So and again, it was this idea that this discussion that we had at the very beginning was so important that, somebody shared with me last night that they have a business that is registered as an EOC business, but they're not profitable. And I paused to think that, you know, okay, yes, profit is part of the economy of community, but it is not the part. I mean, it's not the sole part, you know, it's this idea of developing relationship. So when we founded Finish Line, we focused on, first of all, relationship. In how do we care for one another? How do we dialogue with one another? How do we appreciate the ideas of the other? I was responsible for hiring our teachers. And I would always ask them, the first question I would ask them is, okay, we have a need. What do you think your most important responsibility is in working here? And invariably they would say, well, I teach math very well. You know, so I think my most important thing is to teach kids math. And I would say, no, you know, that's important for sure. But your most important task is to develop a relationship with your student and with the parents. And a student who trusts you, who has a relationship with you, will learn from you. And I found that is constantly the case.
You know, that I know, gosh, we could just, it's so beautiful because it's not our story, it's the story that God, but Chiara gave us the name Finish Line. But it was Finish Line to help people make it to heaven, but also to make it, you know, in this tutorial business. So that's what we feel that we did, and we still have ongoing relationships with the teachers. We still are connected with them. So long after we've left, the relationship, you know, is alive. And that's what the economy, that's what it brings. It brings the soul. It's a beautiful experience.
And I guess one final period in this, and that is that we talk about relationship within the business and with those people who deal with the business, but we also had a relationship with the teachers throughout the area, a 5 mile radius of the area. We knew just about every teacher, every administrator, had a relationship with them, and even just as important, we had a relationship with our competitors, a very positive relationship where we referred students to them that we felt that we weren't that competent in their particular area. And they began referring students to us. So it was really a beautiful mutual relationship that we had. But I think more than anything, I want to leave all of you with this idea of a spark. A spark always ignites a larger fire. And I'm really seeing that happen, and I'm so excited for what's happening on a worldwide basis. And I'm very proud and very happy to have been part of that little spark that ignited.
Thank you.